I call upon David Williams to move the motion. I will then call the Minister to respond. There will not be an opportunity for the member in charge to wind up, as this is the convention in a 30-minute debate. David Williams.
Thank you.
Order. Quiet, please.
I beg to move that this House has considered energy cost support for the ceramics industry in North Staffordshire. Sir John, it is an honour to serve under your chairmanship, and I am grateful that this topic has been selected for debate today. I'm delighted too to be joined by my fellow MP for Stoke-on-Trent Central, and I also thank all other honourable members who are in attendance today. Now, this is a citywide and a nationwide debate, and it is critically important that we speak with one voice on the issues to support the industry as much as we can. Now is the time to act. It was only last month that Royal Stafford, a ceramics firm in my constituency, went into liquidation after nearly 200 years of making fine pottery. This was a devastating blow for our local economy. Over 80 people lost their jobs, and it highlights the real urgency of today's debate. What happened at Royal Stafford should not have happened, and it shouldn't have happened to all the other companies over the years. We've got to fight for our pots. Now, I'd like to place on record my thanks to Colin, Sam and the wider GMB Union for stepping up to support those affected, and I look forward to our sustained engagement on this matter. I also want to pay tribute to the ceramic companies that operate in my constituency of Stoke-on-Trent North: Moorcroft, Burley, Steelite, Moorland and Churchill, to name only a few. And I would like to thank Rob Flello and Ceramics UK, who have campaigned tirelessly on behalf of the sector. The ceramics industry is integral to our story as a city, hence our pottery's name. And today, in our centenary year, it still employs over 3,000 people, exporting our fine products all around the world. We cannot afford to lose these jobs, nor the skills of our workforce. Disposable household income sits already in Stoke-on-Trent some £5,000 behind the UK average, according to the latest ONS data. Over the years, we've already lost our pits, and we cannot afford to lose any more of our pots. Our ceramics companies must remain a focus of economic growth and industry for our city. I will give way.
Can I commend the honourable gentleman for Stoke-on-Trent North for bringing this forward? He's absolutely right to highlight the issue of the ceramics industry. Similarly, in Northern Ireland, we've had three in Larne, Belfast and Londonderry. We've also had a very rich history in ceramics. But in terms of education, to help the honourable gentleman if I can, Ulster University in Belfast has helped to develop new advancements in the ceramics field. There's much more can be done. There's a future for ceramics, is the point I'm trying to make. And does he believe and agree with me that more could be done in terms of education to encourage more young people into the field if there is a vision and an opportunity for the future?
I thank the honourable member for Strangford for attending my first Westminster Hall debate. And as normal, he raises some really important points. I remember the old days of Stoke where we actually had bottle kilns attached to our local schools, and they gave people the first opportunity to learn the skills. Sadly, they've all gone. But the point about getting people interested in the sector and learning skills is a very valid one. I'm also delighted that we were awarded Worldcraft City status in Stoke-on-Trent for our ceramics heritage last year. I know many will be familiar with our household tableware names. I've spoken before about our turnover club. That's where you pick up the plates and you look where the provenance of those plates came from. I've explained in the past how my mum and my granddad worked in the pot banks of Tunstall and Burslem, namely H&R Johnson and Dunbennett & Co. But many people do not realise that ceramics shapes every aspect of our lives. Ceramics companies manufacture the clay bricks, roof tiles and pipes that we need for our homes. Without refractories, it would be impossible. Yes, of course I will.
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman. Thank you for allowing me to intervene. There is another sector alongside pots and roof tiles, and that is bricks. So I just wanted to come in on that point as the member for Aldridge Brownhills. We have Ibstock, and looking to the future, there's a huge amount of investment going into the Ibstock factory in Aldridge. We also have Wienerberger as well. But I think one of the challenges, and I think you may agree with me, is that this sector is really impacted by energy costs. So I think this is an area that we have to continue to look at. How can we support the energy-intensive sector in every way we can, because this is the future?
I thank the honourable member for those comments, and I know she's spoken passionately about this matter in the past, and I will be coming on to the point about the need to support companies with energy bills. So I was saying about how ceramics has an impact on our everyday life, and without our ceramics, we wouldn't have the ability to make steel, glass and other high-temperature products. Without ceramics, we would have no cars, no buses and no mobile phones. What a scary idea. And without advanced ceramics, we'd have no aircraft, defence or medical equipment. Of course I will.
I thank my honourable neighbour for giving way. He will have heard, like me, that advanced ceramics carbon filters are going into submarines being built not just for the UK but for the Australian Navy, and with the commitment that this government has rightly made to huge increases in defence spending, perhaps he will allow me to join him in suggesting to the Minister that one way you could help the entire ceramics sector is by redirecting some of that commitment to defence spending to ensure that those ceramic components get the help and support they need right now.
I thank my honourable neighbour for that intervention, and I couldn't agree more, and I'm certain that the Minister will have heard those comments, and I wholeheartedly support it. And just to continue, of course, we would be eating and drinking from wooden bowls and drinking from cups without the beautiful tableware that we enjoy, including, as I said, the many plates, cups and saucers we see here across the Westminster estate. The world as we know it simply would not exist without ceramics, and I urge the government to recognise that the UK ceramics industry is a vital, critical enabler of the UK economy, as we said, from building homes to high technology to steel making. But repeatedly, I hear concerns from companies regarding their sustainability following dramatic increases in their energy bills. For energy-intensive industries like ceramics, energy cost pressures are significant. In fact, I've heard from companies in my own constituency of Stoke-on-Trent North that their energy bills have trebled. One company even told me they've seen energy bills increase 300% in 10 years. The sector was hit hard by the energy crisis. Inaction left us too dependent on tyrants like Vladimir Putin. This has had a huge impact on both production and raw material costs, and support is urgently needed to protect our businesses. Sadly, I know some employers across our city are already making redundancies due to escalating costs. This is a disturbing trend that will only be exacerbated by inaction. It takes a vast amount of heat to produce the kind of ceramics products we make. According to Ceramics UK, the UK ceramics industry uses around 650,000 megawatt hours of electricity and around 4.5 million megawatt hours of gas every single year. With gas currently costing around £47 per megawatt hour and electricity in the region of £297 per megawatt hour, these costs quickly add up. Now, when you consider that gas used to cost around £11 per megawatt hour, the impact on our businesses is clear to see. Of course, a significant portion of those costs comes from non-commodity taxes and levies. Many ceramics companies pay high carbon taxes under the UK emissions trading scheme, and ever tighter restrictions of free allowances is pushing up costs even more. And because the industry is gas intensive, while still using a lot of electricity, very few manufacturers receive the energy intensive industry's exemption. Now, I'm really proud that this government takes the climate crisis so seriously, and a move towards green energy is desirable. And if we can get to that point, wonderful. However, there is a reality at the moment that these companies are facing very significant bills. It's a fixed cost that those companies can't do anything about. And moving towards low carbon is not always straightforward. It is absolutely right, as I said, to push towards a clean energy transition. But in switching to low-carbon methods, energy-intensive industries need a higher level of support. The technology to switch from gas to electricity firing is not readily available for many ceramics manufacturers, and connections to the grid are poor. Now, of note, some European countries are already taking action and have been for some years to support their ceramics sector. The European Commission recently unveiled its Affordable Energy Action Plan, which includes investing in liquefied natural gas projects to help companies to lower their costs. And a number of other countries too are also helping their energy-intensive industries. It's now vital that the UK follows suit. The history of our city is one of hard-working people. This industry is in our DNA. If we fail to act now, we risk losing not only the unique skills, as we talked about before, that have been honed in the potteries for hundreds of years, but also the communities formed around them. As I move towards my questions to the Minister, can I first start by thanking her for agreeing to meet with me, my parliamentary colleagues, Ceramics UK and the GMB Union to discuss the technical details around the support the sector needs. As a starter, however, following my discussions with Ceramics UK, the sector would like the Minister to consider the merits in offering subsidies for smaller manufacturers' energy costs. Indeed, Ceramics UK has told me that these cost pressures can be up to 6 times greater than they were in 2021. For the manufacturers that can use electricity, eligibility for the government's energy-intensive industries exemption scheme could be opened up for all UK ceramics manufacturers, including removing the UK business level test. And the government could also mandate priority grid connections. For ceramics manufacturers unable to switch from gas, could the Minister consider exempting the sector from new taxes and levies on gas, recognising the limited alternatives currently available? Ceramics really is the hardest of all energy-intensive industries to decarbonise. And whilst Great British Energy will reduce energy bills in the long term, failing to reduce energy costs for the sector now could put our ceramics industry at further risk. And this is simply not acceptable. With carbon taxes hammering the sector, I would also ask the Minister to consider the merits of introducing a temporary exemption from the UK emissions trading scheme for UK ceramic manufacturers until an effective carbon border adjustment mechanism is up and running and ceramics manufacturers can apply for CBAM Phase 2. And perhaps also of great help to our wonderful SMEs in the sector would be the provision of ultra-low interest loans to help finance more energy-efficient kilns, dryers and related equipment. Hydrogen does present an opportunity for the sector to decarbonise, as Ceramics UK recently unveiled a custom-built pilot kiln that runs on hydrogen. Could I ask the Minister to evaluate the hydrogen supply chain and market that is currently available to the ceramics industry and how this can be better distributed? And can I also ask the Minister that as we discuss the support the sector needs, that the Department for Business and Trade works collaboratively with colleagues in the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero, amongst others, to find a solution on a cross-departmental footing. Now, without a desire to move away from the topic of energy costs, it would be remiss of me not to point out one further concern that is often raised by the sector with me and my colleagues. Counterfeit backstamping of tableware products from the likes of China is affecting our UK businesses. Whilst I appreciate the government efforts to regulate against these products through anti-dumping regulations and anti-dumping duty, I am concerned that many of those products do slip through the net. The fake products get listed on internet sites, and I ask for a cross-departmental approach to reviewing tabling offences and the classifications for importing counterfeit tableware products. So, to close, may I thank the Minister for coming to answer my questions, and can I end by inviting her to visit my constituency of Stoke-on-Trent North so that she can see just how brilliant our pot banks really are, how important they are to our local economy and our people. We must keep the pots open, we must keep those kilns fired, and the time to act is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister of State for Industry, Sarah Jones.
Thank you, Sir John. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And I'm grateful to my honourable friend for securing this very important debate. I want to begin by echoing his thanks to the trade unions, to the industry, to Ceramics UK for all that they do. I have been engaging with Ceramics UK quite a bit since I came into this role, and indeed in opposition, and worked closely with the unions and the industry. And I think my honourable friend laid out very clearly the challenges that we face and the challenges he faces in his community in terms of the disposable household income and the importance of getting this right. He was also absolutely right to look to the future with ceramics and not to the past. There are several industries that we want to see grow in the UK where I think we have historically focused on what's gone behind us, steel being another case in point, and not actually what is ahead of us. And the new advanced technologies that he talks about, the importance of ceramics in our mobile phones, our aircraft, our defence, our medical equipment is really clear to see. And I think little understood by people who are not from communities where people work in this sector. So I think we can all do more to make sure people understand what ceramics is and what it's for. And I think the industrial strategy is one way to do that. The industrial strategy, as my honourable friend will know, is the strategy that's coming out in the spring, something that we have promised for years in opposition, something that the previous government tried, but it didn't continue with. And within that industrial strategy, there are the 8 growth sectors that we've identified, advanced manufacturing being one of them, but there are also foundational industries that have to power all of those growth sectors. And of course, that's where ceramics is important. And I want to just nod to the point very well made about defence. In this space, defence is one of our growth sectors in the industrial strategy, but of course we have seen over the last few days the commitment from this government to increase our defence spending, and we've also seen the commitment, we've had the Chancellor speak at Make UK conference today, talking about how we can change procurement in defence so we can do things like bring in more SMEs across the country. But we've also been, I think, very creative in terms of the use of UK export finance to create jobs in Tallis, in Belfast. I think there's more we can do in this space, and I will certainly take away the point very well made by my honourable friend about advanced ceramics carbon filters, and I suspect there are other applications that we could be looking for and what we could do in this space. I want to just acknowledge the challenges that my honourable friend raised and acknowledge that they're very much real, and I completely appreciate them. The cost of energy bills is very difficult for the ceramics industry and for other energy intensive industries. Every single one of us has suffered because we saw this huge price hike after Russia invaded Ukraine, and we are not comparable with our neighbours in terms of our energy costs, and my honourable friend also highlighted the cost of electricity being so much more than gas and the challenges that brings when we decarbonise. He also raised the issue of the ETS scheme and the consultation that's ongoing about free allowances, and of course I heard that as well. And I heard his points very well made about low carbon transition and the challenges that brings for sectors like ceramics, where the upfront cost of that transition is potentially prohibitive.
Us now.
So John, I should thank the Minister. I know that she probably now knows as much about ceramics as those of us from Stoke-on-Trent, because she is constantly on her brief. Just on the point about the transition, one of the challenges that companies in Stoke-on-Trent and around the country who make ceramics is that the margins on the products are not sufficient to allow those big upfront capital investments, which means that going from a gas kiln to an electric kiln is often beyond the reach of many of those companies because they simply don't have the cash flow to do it. I do wonder if one of the ways the Minister could potentially take back to the Department was to think about whether there are energy-intensive industries and companies that are looking to move towards more low-energy, low-carbon outputting equipment. There could be some sort of VAT exemption, or whether indeed things like the public sector decarbonisation scheme, which I know is an under-subscribed scheme at the moment, could in some ways be used to help those energy-intensive private companies to access the new technology that would help them not only reduce their carbon output, but their long-term energy costs through efficiencies.
For those points which he has made to me previously in terms of the public sector decarbonisation scheme, I can certainly take that away and look at it. As he knows, that's not bizarrely part of my brief, but that doesn't matter. This is a government that works across departments and across barriers, and I will endeavour to look into that. And of course, the point is very well made that when your margins are small and you have these big upfront costs, especially for some of these industries where there hasn't been investment in the infrastructure for a long time as well, and a lot of places need just general infrastructure investment, this can be very challenging. And of course we are looking at this very actively through the spending review process. My honourable friend asked a series of questions, and happily they are all questions that we are looking to try and answer. I can't promise what those answers will be at this point, and I can't promise we will manage to do everything that we are seeking to do, but we are certainly very well aware of all the points that he made and looking at all of them deeply. Subsidies on energy costs is, of course, something that we are looking at. He made the point that DBT and DESNES should work together, the Department for Business and Trade and the Department for Energy, Security and Net Zero. I sit in both those departments, so I have a conversation with myself about these issues, and there are competing vantage points on these things, and they are issues that we need to grapple with. But the advantage of me sitting in both departments is that when officials meet to think about this, they meet across the two departments, try and come up with a solution before they come and speak to me, which is very helpful, and they're working very well together, and that's very useful. The energy intensive industries exemption scheme, we are also looking at grid connections, as he will know, is an issue across the board. Now there is a lot of work going on in how you both take out of the queue for grid connections the processes, the programmes that are not yet developed that are speculative, but then how do we prioritise? And I see one of my roles as the Minister for Industry is to point to the need to not forget our existing industrial base and the need for our existing industry to be able to connect to the grid, as well as all of the very important, data centres, AI, all of the new technologies, the new investment we want to see to the UK. If we can't get our own industry connected in the way that we want to see, then we'll be getting something wrong. So he's very right to make that point. The whole relationship, I met with the energy intensive industries actually last week, including Rob from Ceramics UK, and I'm following up on all these things with the Treasury and with officials. A couple of things we agreed in that meeting, just as an example. One is to have a session with the industrial strategy team and the energy intensive industries to sort of make sure we're all working towards the same outcome there. And another is to talk to the Treasury about this challenge that we face of how the ETS and the CBAM sort of align, fit together, or don't, depending on policy. These things are enormously complicated, as you know, as he will know, and CBAM is a Treasury lead. But I am very aware of the need to get that relationship right. Otherwise the system doesn't work at all. My honourable friend talked about hydrogen, which is very important and part of my brief in the Department of Energy. We are developing a kind of hydrogen network. We've had what we call HAR1, which was the initial agreement to fund 11 hydrogen projects, electrolyser projects around the country. There is hydrogen in our carbon capture and storage sort of clusters that we are developing, and we are looking at the moment at what the next phase of the hydrogen rollout will be. My honourable friend will know that hydrogen is very expensive at the moment. We need to work out a path to reduce costs, and that's what we are trying to grapple with at the moment in a climate where money is difficult to bid for in the spending review. So how can we unleash the hydrogen industry and give certainty to business who want to invest but need the right signals? How can we do that as well as use money wisely? And then who pays for it is also a question. Of course, hydrogen, people are very interested in hydrogen, whether it's in steel or whether it's in transport. There's a whole, or whether it's in the green energy space. There's a lot of uses for it, and we need to make sure we're making the right decisions. But I will certainly speak to the hydrogen team about ceramics in particular and ask them what we're looking at in that space. Yes.
Again, to John, I'm very grateful to the Minister for her generosity. The issue with hydrogen, and my friend is quite right, it could be the thing that helps our industry, but electrolysis requires electricity. Electricity generation is capped to the gas price. The gas price, therefore, drives the hydrogen price. So unless there is a way of decoupling that rather difficult circuit, we find ourselves actually replenishing fuel at not a particular discount. The other unique challenge to us, as my honourable friend has expertly laid out, is these are factories in communities, because that's the way it works. A pot bank was built and then houses were built round it. Connection to the hydrogen would not be suitable if it required large towers that contained the hydrogen, as you could do in large out-of-town factories. So whilst I welcome the Minister's commitment to that, if she could just bear those 2 points in mind, because for ceramics, it's a unique challenge, but we're willing to work with her to find a solution.
Yes, he articulated that very well. The gas and everything being connected sound like a song, the hip bones connected to the thigh bone. And it is very challenging, and he's quite right. And the challenge with hydrogen is how do we try and get it to a point where we're delivering it at a scale that means we can use it in the way that we want to, or is it always something that will be used in certain areas for certain things and will never get the cost down? And this is what we're trying to grapple with. And I think in terms of the potential jobs, in terms of the potential growth, in terms of potential exports, you know, there is huge opportunities for the UK, but we need to work out how we take it forward. Finally, my honourable friend raised the point of counterfeit and the huge challenge that it is, and he nodded to the Trade Remedies Authority and the actions that they have taken, and the review on this that has taken place. And I know Ceramics UK and other ceramics manufacturers have responded to that review, and a final recommendation is due in July this year. So you know, of course, I will make representation where I need to, and I recognise the challenge that he's highlighting. And I know that trade officials regularly meet with Ceramics UK as well. It might be good, but not wishing to you know, give burden to my colleagues, but to speak as well to the Trade Minister, if you haven't already done so, about some of the challenges that we face here. So hopefully I have answered the questions that my honourable friend has raised. I want to congratulate him again for bringing such an important debate on behalf of his constituents who work in such a fantastic industry for our country, and hopefully we can work together to fix some of these challenges.
Thank you. The question is that the House has considered energy cost support for the ceramics industry in North Staffordshire. As men of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. 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 Gideon Amos to move the motion.
Thank you, Sir John, and it's a pleasure to serve with you in the chair. I beg to move that this House has considered the bathing water regulations. It's a privilege to open this debate on bathing water regulations. It's fantastic to see so many of my honourable friends, actually, but also honourable members. I think there are some other honourable members in the chamber. So I'm grateful to all of them and to the Shadow Minister and the Minister for their time this afternoon, for joining this debate. In this country, we're fortunate, obviously, to have beautiful natural landscapes. We're blessed with an abundance of beautiful beaches, inland lakes, of course, rivers, such as preeminent amongst them, the River Tone that runs through Taunton and Wellington in my constituency, where we're lucky to have French Weir and Long Run Meadow, where one of the 27 newly added bathing water sites. And I want to take a moment to thank, really sincerely, the incredible volunteers the Friends of French Weir Park, who worked with me to apply for and achieve designated bathing water status there last year. It means for the first time we actually know what the river water quality is. It's variable and it's proven now to be poor, generally speaking, but for the first time we now actually have that information. It's now publicly available and we can work towards getting the investment we need to improve the water. I'm sure there are similar groups across the country in the constituencies of other honourable members.